why the Prince of Wales is genuinely horrified.
And it's not Prince Harry's hairline. Hi, all. Welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show that dives into the fascinating world of two of the most recognized royal couples from both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle right here in sunny California.
Well, it's not as cold as parts of America, but it's still pretty damp and miserable here in the UK. But I've got news on the Prince and Princess of Wales.
I've seen a lot of them lately, Rupert. It's been nice to see them out and about. A nice little 2026 perk to see so much Catherine in her beautiful. What do you call that pattern? I can't believe I'm spacing. I'm a
Tweed?
girl. Not tweed.
Uh,
It's the Scottish pattern. Her
tartan.
beautiful tartan. Oh my gosh, she looks gorgeous. She's like she knows that pattern was
Yeah.
made for her.
Well, and she goes up there as the Duchess of Rothesay because that's the name that they have when they're on Scottish visit. Don't but obviously we'll stick to the Princess of Wales to try and not confuse people if they don't know why
Yeah.
we're suddenly mentioning the Duchess of Rothesay. But they were in Scotland. Interestingly, again, sort of around the same time as Harry was coming in and out of court. So again, struggling perhaps to get all the publicity. But what I think we're going on to fashion, but as you know, I'm a real fashionista and I've got my finger on the pulse, but it does actually show what a significant influence she is with regard to the British fashion industry. So that anything she does, we know what she's wearing, and her involvement with the Scottish designers is also a very important part of her work, and to be seen in a smart tartan coat, I think it was. Is that right?
Yeah, that
Tartan coat.
she customized. She helped design that coat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, watch out, Posh Spice. Here comes the real one. But the Princess of Wales, no, she knows what works for her, and in terms of her look, and the tartan thing is not a bad one anyway.
Let's talk
No.
about some important stories that came out of the Prince and Princess of Wales's office over the week. I'm genuinely horrified. Prince and Princess of Wales install this new gadget to catch microfibers in their home. Um, and what I was surprised by was it's not just in their home, it's throughout multiple properties that the Crown Estate owns. Prince William revealed that he and the Princess of Wales have installed a microplastic filter on their home washing machine after learning about the technology during a visit to Bristol. The device, created by Earthshot Prize finalist Matter, is designed to stop microplastics from entering waterways and oceans. Thank you for saving my whales and dolphins, Prince William. Speaking of
Uh,
real ones. Speaking of real ones, he praised the invention as pioneering for global use and said he was horrified by the amount of waste it captures. Matter founder Adam Root, this is interesting, confirmed that the prince and princess requested the filter be installed in their own home and insisted on paying full price. They don't like freebies like the other pair, okay? Adding that the technology is also fitted in larger royal residences, including Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace. I mean, this is a man putting his money where his mouth is. To see the way that he nurtures these Earthshot products and inventions is really inspiring. He truly believes in them.
I think it's important that he does because obviously the Earthshot Prize is one of his premier initiatives, and if something product is wins a prize or anything, he's got to help move it on to the next stage, i.e., then get it so that these products are built and used on a grand scale. And I have to say, I I applaud him. And look, if he could there installing them around all the palaces, then fair play to him. It will give this company a bit of a leg up. And by referencing it, it's a huge sort of marketing vehicle for them. So this good at publicity for this product. So I presumably what are microfibers? I mean, I'm predominantly a sports journalist, so I've got no science background at all. Are you aware of what microfibers are? And
Microplastics are little particles of plastics that end up in our food and in our clothing. and they are kind of impossible to get rid of. It's very difficult to get rid of. It's in the fish that we eat because it microplastics end up in the ocean in all sorts of different ways. So it's a way to ensure a healthier future going
Well,
forward for everyone, including our our sea creatures.
well, we're all balanced together, so it's look, his Earthshot. I have nothing but admiration for the intentions of it, what it's setting out to try and do, and it is his life's work. In many, one of his great missions is to make the Earthshot Prize viable and continue to attract attention. So if he has done that, obviously. I don't know how expensive it is to install one of these, but if it's easy to install as well, it probably sounds quite a sensible thing to have if you are helping to protect the riverways. You know, I'm not for me. My domestic arrangements here is I'm not on a water supply. I have to have a cesspit outside, and then under controlled environments. So if you really want to know my domestic life here, Kinsey, but again, it is important because obviously the water will go down into the rivers, and you've got to make sure everything is clean and viable. So I have to say I'm intrigued by this product and to see what benefit it would have. With an American wife, I've got machines the size of a space rocket out there as my washing machines. Actually, just behind this door is where I have my washing machines. They are, proper classic. No little tiny washing machine. Got to have a great big American thing. And I
She
would have
said
thought that
she
was
wants
probably
the sheets done in one day. This is not a
well,
process.
no, an hour.
Yeah.
And tumble dryers are everywhere. So I don't know whether I'm probably not being a great. Um, I probably put myself into an environmental bad corner here, but the idea of what the Prince and Princess of Wales are doing there with their domestic washing machines sounds to me very sensible, but very good publicity on behalf of this product for other people to sort of pique their curiosity. And if it's easy to install, it might be a must-have gadget in future.
We're not stupid. And we talk a lot on this show about PR and how what a
Mm.
great PR move, or that's very strategic. But this is one of those rare moments where it does feel like an organic um, passion, collaboration. This doesn't feel put on. I mean, we are talking about how this is great publicity, but I also think we should acknowledge that it doesn't feel like some of the publicity that we've discussed in the past. It feels like a sincere move. Am I right?
Yeah, because look, if we're comparing to the other lot over in your neck of the woods, everything's done with a commercial gain. This is designed, yes, he's installed it, but at the heart of it is him actually saying, because, I assume he's not a shareholder, he's a vested interest in the people and the prize winners and the products that have been developed and have come out of the Earthshot Prize. So I have nothing. I think this is a very simple way. It's good publicity for the Earthshot Prize and the kind of work that it's doing. So lots of people will benefit, draws attention, so other people might think, oh God, let me try and come up with something that might have an impact. And the Earthshot Prize, as I say, I go to football and I eat my curry and chips off a plate of some part of recycling seaweed, I think.
Yeah.
So which I've talked about before. Curry sauce actually tests the viability of this particular product quite substantially. But it's important that these prizes don't just then get a nice prize and then disappear and then don't benefit. But I think if my memory serves me correctly, a lot of these initiatives that have come out, or products, or ideas that have come out from the Earthshot Prize, are benefiting a lot of people, and that can only be a good thing. And the Prince of Wales should be applauded for the heart and soul he puts into it. And now he knows his washing comes out microfiber safe or whatever
Microplastic
it
free.
is.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to say too, or ask your opinion on this. Finding Harmony, a King's version, which is exploring King Charles's lifelong environmental philosophy, that comes out next month internationally on Amazon Prime on February the 6th. when you watch that trailer and you listen to the king, well, first of all, I just love that they put together this documentary where you see how long the king has been championing this conversation, and you see the criticism early on, and you see the evolution internationally where everybody sits back and goes, wait, some of those things he was saying 20 years ago, that sounds pretty legitimate. I can't wait to see the documentary. The trailer is got me excited enough, but it just gives you the sense that this is a real conversation Prince William and King Charles have probably regularly.
Well, I think you can actually go back to the Duke of Edinburgh,
Mm-hmm.
Prince Philip, because he was, okay, world wildlife. He was passionate about, saving the world, in Africa and endangered species. That was his great passion. You then get his son, and not 20 years, 40 years. You remember he used to be lampooned for talking to the trees, and people made, that he was a bit wacko,
Mm-hmm.
that he'd go around and he'd talk to the plants, and people thinking, well, what's he on about? Now his ideas do have a degree of credibility. He can't obviously talk about them in such a way, but in a way he'd like to. But this documentary, and I'll be intrigued to see it, will be a way for him to show his journey, which I hate you, but and the way he's been able to, his ideas have become more and more mainstream, and that his son is picking up the mantle and carrying it forward in a way that is a very proactive way and a positive way. It's not just words. He's getting people to come up with ideas that might actually have a benefit on the environment. So you can see the influence that the king and his son have now in trying to promote environmental causes that avoid the sort of political hot potatoes, but actually are benefiting communities around the world. And that just has to be a good thing.
With all of the chaos that has surrounded King Charles throughout his life, don't you think? I think because you said you didn't like the word journey, but I almost feel like projects like this, again with the PR play, are important because some of the chaos that surrounded his personal life, it was like white noise on the intentional positive contributions he was making to the world. And I'm not trying to say that he's rewriting history with these projects, but I do think it's important that people clean things up and show us what he was doing in the background, because it wasn't just personal drama going on in his life. In fact, for his mental health, I think he pursued a lot of these things that he was passionate about: the environment, architecture, staying heavily invested in the political environment. Um, and I think that this is a nice way for us to actually see what was happening behind the scenes instead of being overwhelmed by a divorce or a relationship with a previous girlfriend that turned into a new relationship. I don't mind these documentaries. In fact, I'm excited. I like the idea of seeing that specific journey. I think it's a clever PR move.
Absolutely right. And it's something, it's his happy place. The garden is his happy place. Now, we know gardens can have a really, working in the land or have a really positive impact on people who may be struggling. But for him, being in his garden, whatever, going out and chopping down a hedge or rebuilding a hedge or doing stuff in the garden is his place where he found peace and contentment. And I think that is a very good example for anybody. We've seen it in many ways. The Princess of Wales referencing in those videos nature and the importance of nature, the environment, living together. So it's all a joined up message coming out of the royal family that the environment and our earth is very important to us and we must treasure it. And I think that's what the king's message, even if he was seen when he was a younger man to be a bit of a crackpot with his ideas, now those are more mainstream and appreciated. And this film, which I'll look forward to seeing as well, I'm sure will reflect the deep passion. And I know people who work with various charities that he's involved with, the sort of country charities, and his commitment to these. You don't necessarily see it, but when he gets involved in them, people just say he's on the money, and you can feel his passion. And I think that's what will come out in this documentary. I hope reflecting his passion, and we've seen that that passion has been passed on to his children, but in different degrees of success.
Absolutely right. Now, there was an interesting post on social media from the Prince and Princess of Wales. And according to Good Housekeeping, on the same day that they met with Matter, Prince William also took a trip to Bristol Robotics Labs, where he saw cutting edge robotics, which are being made shaped around humans. And on social media, William said that robotics are helping create safer, more supportive technologies to help people manage dementia and improve mobility, demonstrating how innovation can transform everyday lives. While he was there, he was able to witness some of the latest inventions in action. I feel like there is three topics we typically talk about surrounding Prince William: homelessness, the environment, Prince Harry. But what this was cool to me, this really stood out to me and told me that William's curiosity is out the roof, and that he truly, he's drawn to some of these really creative initiatives. And I love that. I love that he's sharing those with us.
Well, robotics is the new way forward, and if it can be a positive impact, you can see the positive impacts of sort of all this modern technology in the films of that visit. I mean, you couldn't. I mean, I wouldn't have known what to ask, but obviously some very clever people putting together this. Whatever these robotics and helping people move, could obviously benefit people who are disabled, all sorts of benefits that can come from this. So and it's good again to see the Prince of Wales offering his support, whether it in again promoting this initiative, because we have to come back. The royal family are there to promote the good things, positive things, as much as they can. And this is another example of it. Again, it probably got lost in the mainstream because we didn't see much of it, but you had to sort of work to find it. And that's often some of the problems that it gets buried in what has been a pretty wild news cycle of late.
That's why we're here, Rupert. That's why we're freaking here.
Yeah, well, we're here for that very good reason. But that is, it's been a wild news cycle, and obviously Harry's been in court over here. But this does show the positive impact that the royal family can have on certain initiatives. But what he will want to make sure is he doesn't like just going to open and saying goodbye and forget them. I'm sure he'll be keeping a watching brief on the developments coming out of this place in Bristol.
First of all, I think it's a incredibly clever move. Well, I mean, dementia is terrifying, but the audience that does stay heavily invested, emotionally invested in the British royal family, they typically seem to be an older demographic. I say that as a geriatric myself. Okay, so I think that
what does that what does that make me?
But I do think that it's nice that they spotlight some of these causes that might actually be of interest to the audience that is really committed to their story. But I'm so glad that you brought up that this probably didn't get as much press as we would have liked because it's so positive. It's so, this is not him saying to a press pool, none of our kids have cell phones. We don't trust social media. He's actually presenting some solutions with this unique new technology. And I wonder if that's why I consider him more of an authority in the space of technology than I would Prince Harry, because he does give us the pros and cons, whereas Prince Harry is just very negative. And we know Harry and Meghan know the pros. That's why Meghan uses social media to build her business. But in fixating on the positive too, you get the idea that Prince William really knows what the hell he's talking about.
I think he cares. Look, and I was intrigued when I read how to help dementia because sadly that was eventually that my mother got dementia quite young as well.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Bearing in mind, well, no, but it was a long time ago. So but it's that was 14 years ago. But it was dementia. But dementia does affect not just seem to be old. We hear about people getting dementia at relatively young ages. So
Yeah,
if it is a
more and more
yeah,
today.
and I just want to know how it might have an impact. What's it? Movement? How does it? What will they come up with ways to help your memory? Because that's obviously the thing, knowing with people with dementia, it is, the carers of these, those are the people I admire wholeheartedly because it's debilitating when you are looking after someone with dementia because you can be having the same conversation 10 times within an hour. And so I would be very intrigued to see what they think they might be able to come up that would actually help someone with dementia. And that's the kind of innovative research that you want to see that needs to be funded. And the Prince of Wales going to somewhere like that may help that business get the necessary funding for it to actually then become something that becomes into the mainstream and is not just a fanciful project that's going on in some laboratory somewhere, but actually down the line, from conception to inception can be a very, very long way. But if it can come up with something, then the Prince of Wales helping to promote this firm is again a very positive thing. And I'm sure countless people with friends, relatives who are suffering from dementia will welcome anything that can alleviate the issues for the person suffering from dementia. It has to be applauded.
It does. It does. I think I was pleasantly surprised by that engagement because it's not something we typically see from them. And my interest was immediately piqued. And I thought somebody over there is doing something right. Well, let's talk about people that always get it wrong. Shall we? Shall
Oh,
we?
well,
Shall we?
which
Shall
one
we?
are we gonna talk about? Sundance. We're going to talk. I think we do have to touch on the court case, although
Yeah,
we
I've
can't.
got plenty. We got plenty of notes
Hang on
on
the
the court
court case.
case. Let's talk wellness without the scare tactics. Life is busy. Mornings start fast. Coffee is essential, and routines need to work, not complicate things. People want products that support how they live now, because real beauty is about supporting what keeps you strong, radiant, and feeling your best. That's where Native Path Collagen comes in. No, this is not a trendy, overhyped beauty product. This is the real deal. It contains type 1 and type 3 collagen, which makes up roughly 90% of the collagen found in the human body. These are the building blocks that support skin, hair, and joint health. Native Path helps support those systems. One single ingredient, no fillers, no nonsense, just high quality collagen. Each morning, one scoop can be mixed into your coffee or your favorite beverage. It dissolves easily, has no taste, and fits seamlessly into your everyday routine. Many people report stronger hair, smoother, more hydrated skin, and less joint stiffness, especially in the mornings. Try it for yourself. Visit getnativepath.com/unfiltered to take advantage of a special offer today. Here comes the spelling test. Ready? It's native, NATIVE, path, PATH.com/unfiltered for a special bundle deal at a fraction of the retail price, backed by a risk-free 365-day guarantee. If you want to look good, feel good, and actually support your body instead of just hoping your moisturizer is magic, Native Path is where you start. Getnativepath.com/unfiltered. But let's
Yeah.
talk about Sundance since it's what's been breaking over here in the States. And a lot of Harry and Meghan fans upset because they don't think that this story has any credibility, although my sources say it does. And I trust them more than random people on the internet. Prince Harry and Meghan made an appearance at Sundance to promote their latest documentary, Cookie Queens. We should note that this movie was already being made. Harry and Meghan just threw some money at them so they could slap executive producer titles on the
Oh,
film.
oh,
But despite the
okay.
high profile push, the film is already being described as another misfire for the couple. The screening failed to sell out, leaving noticeable empty seats throughout the theater. When the lights went low, roughly 150 seats were still unfilled. According to page 6, waitlisters were eventually allowed to take spots that had been reserved for high priced Sundance pass holders. many of whom appeared uninterested in the royal appearance. So if you paid $7,000 for your pass, there were reserved seats for you throughout the film festival. These high profile individuals opted to skip this. For context, the very same theater was standing room only the night before for the invite premiere. There aren't assigned seats, and they had to send more than 100 ticket holders away for the previous premiere. So there's no question to me that this film is probably not seeing as much attention, interest, enthusiasm as the others. Just analytically, there are the stats right there. But does it surprise you that celebrities aren't clawing to be near the Duke and Duchess in Utah?
It doesn't surprise me at all. I think there's an ambivalence now in America to them. They don't see their brand as being up to that much. And look, what's the vibe on the quality of the film? I mean,
That it's
that's
cute.
ultimate.
It's cute. It's fine. It's cute. It's fine. Is it life changing? Is it something everyone needs to see? Absolutely not. Are these little girls cute? And is it a cultural shift? Absolutely not. It's cute. It's fine.
It's a bit of a couple of hours of wallpaper.
Actually,
Um,
actually, to your exact point earlier, to me, this is so innocent and bland and, just white walls that
yeah.
it strikes me as a PR move, a purposeful PR move from the Sussexes to clean up their image. The Princess Meghan, I know she's not a princess, don't yell at me. That
Mm,
I'm going with what they're
yeah.
trying to sell. The Princess Meghan, who is not a bully, who is sweet, who used to be a Girl Scout. This just gives Meghan the opportunity to go on red carpets and talk about how she used to be a Girl Scout. It gives Meghan a chance to try to reset her image as the nasty, mean girl boss. That's what I think this all is. And then, yes, she wants to say she's a producer. So they threw a bunch of
Yeah.
money at this existing project so they could slap their names on it. What are
I
your
wouldn't.
thoughts there?
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that because, obviously with a new PR firm, they've got to somehow look to sort of put all these negative stories behind them. And if they can be seen to be, supporting, something that is quintessentially American. I mean, I don't know, were you a Girl Scout or a Girl Guide when you were, and did you make cookies?
No, you sell boxes and those cookies are delicious. They probably
Well,
are full of microplastics if we're being honest,
no,
but
no,
they
hang
are
on.
delicious.
But don't you make your own cookies and then sell them like that? Is that, or you
No.
buy cookies? So
You
you,
buy them. So the Girl Scouts, they give you an assignment. Actually, the funniest story, which is very California, is the Girl Scouts here, they stand outside of weed stores because they know you're
so,
going to get the munchies. So the Girl Scouts in California, these little 8, 9-year-old girls stand outside
hey.
of marijuana dispensaries and they sell their Girl Scout cookies. But the Girl Scouts have this trove of types of
Mhm.
cookies like Samoa cookies. They're delicious, mint chocolate chip. And like around the same time every year, they're on every corner, or they show up and knock on your door and ask you if you want to order some. And then if you sell a certain amount, you get like a 12-inch TV. I remember when I like a 12-inch TV is what I was going for one year when I was a little girl. So you're rewarded based on how many cookies you sell, but it's the Girl Scouts that own and sell these cookies.
Oh, right. So you don't make your own cookies because I thought that was what and because we saw the picture of Meghan when she was young, you know, so she's not actually she's selling cookies that she's been handed to go out and flog. So it's
Allegedly,
not
yeah. I
her.
know I
It's
don't
not
believe
her.
anything that she says. So allegedly, yes.
Well, she's doing something as a young girl with a jar of something or a carton of something. So I thought I was sort of reading it is that you would actually make your own cookies, and then whoever sold the most cookies would be, of your own cookies. And that would strike, and that's why I thought, well, there she was making cookies at a young age, but now it's actually no different from what she's doing now, flogging as ever cookies. It's the same thing, you know. Probably did it more successfully back then than now. So exact, she's not made the cookies now, and she's not made the cookies then. So there we go. A quick, her life really hasn't moved on. Or she was, or it's gone downhill from the moment she stopped selling Girl Scouts cookies. But anyway, the point is, I do think they are trying, and looking at the pictures from it, you know, she's gushing all over the place. And Harry, who doesn't seem to have had time to, his feet haven't touched the ground from being in this country for a week and then hot footing it over there. So I don't know how much time he spent with his children in the last week. Not a lot, because presumably he got home to California and they were immediately on a plane to Utah. So anyway, it's if it does well, where do we watch it? Where will we in cinemas? Is it going to be, or is it on Netflix, or where do we know where we will we see it over here, or is it a very American thing?
I think inevitably it'll find its way online in some way, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think that there's a real fight for it'll be somewhere one day, but I don't think that there's real um
It didn't strike me as being something that was going to
mainstream.
move.
Yeah.
It didn't strike. It wasn't. You know, I'm not busting a gut to watch it. Look, I may not be the target market, but it may be more your generation, perhaps, and with small children and everything. So possibly, I don't know. Or look, if it does well, I think the woman who got up and did it, she's obviously very genuine, very passionate about the project. But like all these things, when you hear people on the red carpet, you know, you see actors and actresses promoting an absolute turkey of the film, but they have to put on a brave face.
Yeah.
So, you know, but what you're saying is it probably looks good, sounds good. The girls selling their cookies, you know, all doing a good job. So there will be plenty of presumably
Mm.
moments.
Yeah.
Would that be
Yeah.
about right?
I think so, but I do think the ultimate objective for Meghan was she saw an opportunity to make it about
Oh,
her. And she saw an opportunity to make it about her story, selling Girl Scout cookies as a little
oh,
girl, and how she's such an entrepreneur and she's such a little hustler. And it's like, honestly, we don't care.
oh,
You have everything you have today because of the man you married, and that is facts
well,
upon facts.
well, I can't disagree with that. And also, I heard her speech as she's introducing, and it's the same guff word salad again. You know, how these women will become the sort of leaders of tomorrow. They'll be empowered and all this psycho babble rubbish.
Yeah.
Nearly said a rude word there, Kinsey. But anyway, but I will watch the film. Of the two films we've talked about so far, I'm giving the King's one top
Priority.
notch. That's priority over you making me watch this particular film.
No, I
But
wouldn't make you watch it. I don't think that there's any reason for us to watch it. So Harry and Meghan slap
okay.
their names on it. I don't think that that's any reason for
Well,
us to watch it.
I think the only interesting thing will be is how does it do? Does it have any commercial value at the end of it? Have they put money into something that in the end has been, you know, was a worthy project, but has it really got any traction outside a few, you know, close friends? I
Right.
mean, that, you know, and what kind of audience will it attract?
Mm.
Um, you know, and presume is it? See, it's not even on. You're saying it's not even on Netflix.
No, no, it's like
Well,
also also what happened to the Netflix documentary Prince Harry was releasing about the children from Africa that are famous on YouTube? Did that
uh,
come out quietly and when none of us acknowledged it, or is it not out
well,
yet?
I don't think it's out, is it? Well, he hasn't gone to
I think
Africa.
it did come out, and I just don't think anybody's acknowledged it. So I think that that's I don't know. What I'll have to confirm. It's
Well,
a
we'll
conversation.
have to
Uh,
go onto Netflix and Google Prince Harry in Africa. Presumably that's what it'll come up as. I
I
can't
do.
do two things at once.
I want to ask you because there's a new piece in Page Six that really tears into Prince Harry, and I think that it's relevant to the conversation right now. Royal warrior to sidelined spare Prince Harry's failing new life in Hollywood spotlight crumbles. Here's a quote from a source: for Harry to go from the hearing on Wednesday, pleading for privacy, to then go to Sundance just days after is nuts, said one Hollywood source of the royals' fight with the British newspaper. which he accused of making Markle's time in England absolute misery. I think that's a good transition into the court case. Harry sitting on a stand talking about how unfair his life has been, how he's been commercialized by the tabloids his entire life, to then hop on a likely private jet to go hobnob with the 1% at Sundance in front of cameras and on red carpets. It looks a little tone deaf. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, that's the trouble with him. He's bleating about going to court over privacy, yet he produces Spare. He
Yeah.
produces a Netflix documentary. So he wants his cake and eat it. That's his problem. So one minute he's in court and the judge is admonishing for not answering the question and then sort of making it all personal and suddenly bringing up the fact that the press made Meghan's life hell. But actually, this court case is about incidences that happened way before that they actually met. So it's a completely different era. And and even in this particular weekend, looking at the footage, he just looks like a spare part, and
I
that's the
just
problem.
confirmed I just confirmed that that documentary does exist. Just no one's talking about it on Netflix. It's like
Well, you
it's
see,
available.
you clever person. How did you see you're a woman, you see you can do two things at once and I can't. So well done you. But he was basically looked like a spare at this Sundance because I don't think he's been said anything. Meghan's trying to get in front of a microphone at every opportunity. He's
Yes.
just called in for a photo op.
Yeah.
So he'd be far better off having been in court, leave her to go and do all the schmoozing with at the Sundance Festival, while he sits at home and is with his children. I mean, I don't know. Have they gained anything from being there apart from just giving the lady who's done the film a hug and standing and having a photo op? What else has he done?
I think
You know that.
Meghan is in her element. Meghan's wanted
Yeah.
this all. This is the same girl that's giving fellatio in the pilot episode of the new Beverly Hills 90210 pilot and auditioning for Shakira music videos where she shakes her butt around. This is Meghan's dream to be at Sundance and be taken seriously in this industry, okay?
Yeah, well, I don't remember that audition.
But like I want to talk to you. We can talk about Harry
yeah,
being the spare and we'll get into more of that
yeah,
and we'll break down some more of this story. But can I ask you about, because I know what I felt in reading that court testimony.
yeah,
I'd like to know how you felt. You are a much deeper insider than I
yeah,
am. You were there for a lot of these. I wasn't paying attention to Prince Harry when he was
yeah.
wearing Nazi costumes on purpose, but you were an adult. You saw those pages. Um, One of the things that stood out to me was the judge having to step in and remind Harry that his job was to answer the questions, not argue with the lawyers. Did that stand out to you at all? I talked to one attorney who's like, that happens all the time. But to me, it felt like Harry was comfortable in that position because he's probably at home litigating things 24/7 with Meghan.
Well, and I think the problem is as we have often said, he's not particularly bright, and he thinks, he just has to say anything and people will listen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how it works in a court of law. It's for the judge to then assemble all the facts. We've had other people. I think Sadie Frost has been in giving her testimony today about what happened there. But in Harry's case, it seemed like a lot of the case for the defense was that everything was, he had friends who squawked, who bleated the whole time, and they were just a sort of permanently could get information very quickly.
And
It will be very,
Rupert, he kept saying that no, he didn't have friends that would leak. No,
yeah,
his family wouldn't leak. But he did an entire Netflix docuseries where he accuses his family of leaking negative stories about him and his wife. Would they just decide after
yeah.
almost an entire lifetime that they were going to just now decide to leak negative stories about him? I mean, I'm not accusing the royal family of leaking stories about Harry and Meghan, although I have heard in the past that if there was a story about Prince William they wanted to scoot under the rug, somebody might whisper, "Did you know what Harry was up to?" Although I digress.
Uh,
But
Yes.
He does not. He is not consistent in his storytelling.
No, he's not, and I think that is the problem for Harry. Now, I don't know with regard to the other celebrities who were there and when their testimony. This could go on for 9 weeks, but Harry has done his bit in court. The judge, obviously, by the fact that he was admonishing him at various stages, wasn't probably overly impressed with him as a witness because he didn't answer the questions, and that makes it difficult for the judge because he just wants facts. Let's hear the answer. Don't extemporize and go off into a tangent about his wife and the mistreatment that she had. That was not the purpose of the court case.
And
It's about
irrelevant to the court case.
Means nothing. So I
Also,
think that
is it mean to say that the Diana stuff is irrelevant to the court case too? That happened well before the accusations that they were specifically there to just dissect.
but the trouble is he's got a Diana fixation, hasn't he? His mother.
Yeah,
Well,
but
yeah,
I
look,
know, but our point is if he were sticking to the facts at hand and sticking
yeah.
to the timeline that they were supposed to be focused on when he's accusing certain people of rummaging through his trash, listening to his voicemails, his phone calls, and tracking him and hiring in private investigators to stalk him, that's totally unrelated to the death of Princess Diana.
Yeah, and this is again, stick to the facts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look, the intrusion on his mother was intense
Mm-hmm.
and would have left a mark. And he still thought that press intrusion was one of the reasons she ended up driving through the streets of Paris late at night to get away from the press intrusion.
Without a
So,
seatbelt on.
well, sadly, and that would prove to be her undoing. But it is very sad that. But the facts of the case is what Harry should have been strongly coming up with his case. And a lot of the time, you feel there's moments of hearsay. The facts are not there. Yes, he feels aggrieved, and yes, he's gone to court. But will it actually give him the success he wants? Well, we will know in 9 weeks' time if there is if associated newspapers have won or lost this case, and who is going to be footing the bill for it.
He accused the media of essentially like trying to drive him towards drugs. He referenced a 2005 article during his relationship with Chelsea Davy.
Yeah.
He went into extraordinary detail about how this stuff made him paranoid. And he said the press wanted to push him into drugs and drinking to sell papers. That's a different, totally different version of events if you go and read about the joys of his experimental drug use in Spare, or you listen to him during his press tour. I remember he was talking about ayahuasca and ayahuasca retreats that brought him closer to whatever. How can you go and accuse an entire industry of trying to drive you to go look at the pictures from the Kardashian party. That looks like somebody that's had a beverage or two.
Well, this is the point. There is so much hypocrisy through his life. Yet we don't know if who's going to, with regard to this court case, of how it's going to pan out, and if he has got a case. But if you look at he does just want to play the victim at all times, and that is part of the problem. It's a I'm feeling that I'm the only one who's got this problem. Well, he hasn't really got too many problems in real terms. He's chosen this lifestyle. He should not be feeling the victim. This is what he created, what he wanted. This was his, he didn't feel that he could stay in the royal family. But this article that you're alluding to about a man who doesn't really know what he's doing now, he is spare. That title is because he can't do the life of service, which he was trained for and did well, serving in the army, doing all that, sense of responsibility. But now you have to work at it. And isn't, as this article was talking about, he may be wanting to set up a business. I can't see that. At the moment, he is a spare part at a wedding.
Yeah.
And that is the problem for him.
when we do print media, we have no control over what
Yeah.
quotes they take. And, so I will sit there and write a novel and they'll use 3 lines. But one interview I did last week, they asked me to comment on Meghan Markle's Netflix show being canceled and what was in the future for Prince Harry based on that. And my line was, as for Prince Harry, it likely means more low level rent a prince appearances like the Toronto Hilton Real Estate Convention. That seems to be where the public value currently lands. And they didn't use it. I think they thought it was mean. But then comes this page 6 article where the source says Harry feels his strengths are public engagements, public speaking. So I was right. Just so you guys should have printed my words, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, meow, Kinsey, meow. But what I would say, but it's true that he doesn't know what he's doing. His charities have all got, even Archwell or
But
Archipelago or whatever.
isn't there a soul crushing element to being on the road and chasing the next paycheck by having to regurgitate your story? I mean, it's not like he's Katy Perry and is jumping on a stage and singing a song everybody wants to hear. He's at a real estate convention talking about the death of his mother.
I wondered where you were going there with that one, John. I think she's.
Were you going to say she was jumping on Justin Trudeau because that's
yeah, that's what I was going to say. But hello, ding dong. But anyway, in many ways, he just has got nothing to do, and so as this weekend in Utah shows, he is just basically being dragged along to be photoed, and then I don't know how long they stayed there, but did they get back pretty quickly back to California? I mean, it's not that far flight-wise from Utah to the other side of the mountains, isn't it? So get back to Montecito, but ultimately he's got to find some direction, and in many ways, you see, this is the sad thing. He would be good at this if he stuck at it, and the royal family would have a wonderful asset, but he blew it. And he did his wife's bidding. And I think at the moment, he's a man in his 40s, not sure where his life is going in terms of what's going to keep him proactive, interested, energized. What can he do and fulfilling, rather than just being an appendage to his wife and coming back to being a spare again.
Yeah, listen to that quote. This is coming from page 6. He is without a steady income, and some around him say without purpose. And it all raises the question, is Harry sidelined as the spare once again? I read lines like this, I listen to what you say, and the anxiety and the pure desperation in this Invictus reunion between King Charles and Harry makes so much more sense, because Invictus is all this guy has. Invictus is the only thing that gives him credibility in the real world. And yes, he does need the legitimacy of King Charles at the next Invictus Games to help get him back in the groove. That's my personal opinion.
There's always a sense of desperation with him and Invictus Games, that this is his moment of real purpose, and that's what's sad, because he could be doing it amongst many other things, but the things that he's been involved with have all fallen apart. Centre Bali falling apart. African Parks has got its issues. I don't know what other charities he's involved in. Well Child, but that's over here, and that's a big charity that he's just there as a patron, not much day-to-day involvement in that charity. So that's what he's got to do, because he feels completely rudderless in his 40s as to what he can do and what he's trained to do. Well, what he's trained to do is a life of service, but he just unfortunately didn't think that his wife didn't want to be the number 2.
I couldn't find the quote. I was looking for the quote. I apologize for looking down, but there is a quote in this article, and I struggled to locate it. But to paraphrase, it's something along the lines of like, Meghan's the breadwinner and he's completely happy with that. And that's not the first time we've heard that line. Vanity Fair, American Hustle, I also believe that they went into something similar about how Harry was
Yeah.
completely content staying at home with the kids and Meghan being the one doing all the heavy lifting. There's also the idea in this piece about how they rarely leave their house and how sad that must be, or how kind of like lonely and boring that must be. Do you think that they're, I mean, the fact that we've heard it twice that Harry's completely content with Meghan doing all of the heavy lifting, I think that that says something. I think that, but at the same time, he told us during the Oprah Winfrey interview, I signed a deal with Spotify, I signed a deal with Netflix because I was desperate. I had to make money. Our lifestyle's expensive. So he does take on that burden sometimes. We know that to be true, I guess.
Well, he's got to find a way of supporting, because if Meghan's endeavours don't yield the returns that she would so dearly love, because they do have an extremely expensive lifestyle, even for their own security, and that must be costing them an
Two to
arm and a
three
leg.
million
So
dollars a
yeah,
year.
that, and plus, the upkeep and all the staff, which I think they've pared that back. It is a problem, and nothing wrong with Meghan being the main breadwinner. There are lots of couples where that is the case, and you work it out, you balance. So therefore, she can be out there plying her trade, and he can be maybe more hands-on with the children. Nothing wrong with that. That's sensible. I mean, there will be lots of families having that very same conversation. But Meghan wants to be the big superstar. She wants global domination, and that's not going to happen because people know that she's actually not as talented as she thinks she is,
Mm.
and that's part of the problem.
You don't
She
think that ultimately Meghan would be happier with somebody that matches her ambitions and wants to grow together? Because that's the type of person I feel like she wants to be Lauren Sanchez and she's looking for a Jeff Bezos.
Well, now you're opening up a whole can. You're suggesting also, will she get bored? Basically, what you say, will she get bored with Bat Harry?
Or get fed up having all of the, well, or bored, yes, because you want
Yeah,
somebody that challenges you, that
yeah.
champions you, that is contributing, but also kind of just like fed up. Like, could you get off the couch and put the video games away?
I think she probably might, but again, that can happen in lots of relationships. But obviously, this is a high profile one. She always talks about how much she's never felt so loved. So, but we don't actually hear how much she loves him.
Never.
It's always that way round, and that's why he's there like her poodle. He's just basically, I'll show. This is who I am. I'm the Duchess of Sussex, thanks to this man, and that's all he's got to do: stand there like a statue, be photographed, and go off again. It's rather sad, really. And will 4 or 5 years' time, will she be looking for the next to become the future? The equivalent of Mrs. Bezos, you never know. Well, there might be a vacancy there. You never know down the line. You never assume anything. But whatever. I would suggest that Harry has to find a way to give himself that he gets up in the morning and give him some drive. At the moment, he just looks rather, rather sort of meek and sort of, just looks lost. He is lost out there, and America is not, from his perspective, is probably not it's all it's cracked up to be, and he's got this court case. But what else has he got going on? I'm not sure, and coming to a film premiere of something they didn't really get involved with. They've just gone to an opening as an executive producer role. Well, whoop-de-doo. I mean, he's probably done absolutely nothing for this film spent nothing, no time on it, not his problem. But what's he actually getting up in the morning and maybe working on that actually he can feel, oh, that's good. I've done something that is, whether it's work, whether it's more charity work, find it. But he's going to struggle to raise money as Arch. Their charity is struggling to raise money because people
Well, that's why
don't
they transitioned to
like it.
philanthropies, because now they don't have to worry about that under the philanthropies umbrella. They don't have to fundraise and hustle as much as they were. That's one of the reasons why they transitioned. Back to the court case. One last question.
Mhm.
Did it bother you at all, the idea of him saying that he's been commercialized since he was a child because of the tabloids? And then you think about every time Meghan Markle has a new product to drop, there's the back of Lily's head in her pajama pants and frolicking in the garden. It does feel like they're already commercializing. They've slapped Archie and Lily's names on the philanthropies page, are positioning them for something that they have no
Yep.
that there's
Well,
no way those kids can decide whether or not that's what they want to do for a living. It just seemed very silly to me that he would sit there and complain about commercialization when I'm watching the same thing happen to his own children.
well, I'm afraid that's the problem. Hypocrisy is writ large. If you're in the royal family, you're in that goldfish bowl. And that is the problem. And when they were young, it was a feeding frenzy back then. And it was, you know, very difficult and obviously compounded by the breakup of his parents' marriage, which became a media frenzy in its own right. But now to see what's going on with his own children, and it's sad with these back views, and it's why William has been very protective over his children, drip feeding them into the public consciousness, leaving them to be 90% of the time completely private, not seen, but every so often they're they're there at the King's birthday parade. There will be, where we see
Sandringham.
them at the Easter, we might see them, just careful moments when they're out there. William going off to with George to go and spend a night in a kitchen for homeless people. Those kind of moments that show them, but it's very controlled. And I absolutely agree with that. And the children, both sets of children, should not be used for any commercial purposes. That won't happen to William's children. He wants to give them as normal childhood as is possible, given who they are. You have to accept there will always be some requirement, but you can manage it. And that's what the Waleses are doing to very good effect. Whereas it feels at the moment, when it comes to the Sussexes, a bit of a freak show.
Yeah. I I know I know I'm a brown noser when it comes to the Prince and Princess of Wales. I love them.
No,
I love
Kinsey.
them. I don't care. But I would say it's not just William and Catherine making some of these critical decisions. It's an incredible team of men in gray suits that have crafted and perfected this template for years. Yes, there is a huge shift in the way we deal with royal children today versus the way we dealt with them with William and Harry. I do agree with that. But I also think that they have incredible advisors around them that they do listen to. And that's one of the reasons why they continue to succeed and win versus Harry and Meghan that are burning through the help and never seem to listen to anybody that might have a better idea than they do.
Well, and this is the problem for the Sussexes. Well, particularly for Meghan, she thinks she knows all, and that's my point. She thinks she's not as talented as she thinks she is, and once
So
she
she
can
thinks she's
accept,
more talented than
well,
she thinks.
she thinks she's the greatest thing since sliced bread,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, she's not. And a degree of humility. I tell you what, I was given a lesson once. We digress. Can I tell a story about a lesson in life? And I'll never forget this. And it was about broadcasting.
Yes.
Back in the day, I used to commentate on greyhound racing. Okay, and one time a greyhound failed to come out and then turned around and just wagged his tail. And while in the commentary, I laughed. And this was going into back in the day racing and into betting shops. And I was hauled in by the manager, and he said, "You should not laugh because, bearing in mind, some people have had a bet on that dog." And he turned around to me. He said, "The trouble is, Rupert, you think you're a better broadcaster than you actually are." And I will never. And I thought, well, that's the one good thing he's told me, because actually, you always have to approach everything with a degree of humility
Oh yeah.
and
I think that I'm
realize,
not that great all the time.
yeah. So therefore, never. You're always learning. You're always trying to say, could I, should I, why didn't I do that? I've done something better.
Mm.
And I remember that it was 30 odd years ago when this guy hauled me into his
Well,
office,
let's
marched.
see if he's still alive and let's inform him that you're now a YouTube sensation.
Well, I don't think he needs to know about that. I don't know whether he is or isn't, but it was a long time ago. And I was and it was a good lesson.
Yeah.
You always to just take it. Whatever you do, you'll never think, "Oh my goodness me, that was the best thing," and aren't I brilliant? Because if you
No,
that just own that leads to a fall.
it does.
And whatever, never think you're better than anybody else on the way up and on the way down. Never assume.
It's good
Um,
advice.
and I've tried to, those people have told me that, and I always try to make that my mantra is that, because I know people who, when they start out, and they may just be, okay, this is a bit broadcasting niche, but 1 minute they do their first job. Well, I've obviously been around the block a bit, but now some of those people are running radio stations or TV stations who started out as just the person on the desk in the back of the studio. And
Hmm.
you've got to say, well, they should have a career. So you never assume. So everyone be nice to everyone on the way up and way down. And Meghan probably could learn from that mantra.
Oh, what
But
a
I don't
great
think
way
she
to,
will.
what a great note to end on. Agree with us,
Yeah.
disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend, Rupert Bell. I will see you again next week. Let's get rid of microplastics. Let's save the whales. Let's save the dolphins and the sea lions. And thanks so much for your time today.